I'll see if I can change it as we go. But thanks for joining. I'm Josh Osborne. I'm the product manager for the CI tools here in New Zealand at Central Innovation. And today's session is the weekly CI tools sort of Q&A. Here's some stuff you might not know about session. Excellent. Okay, audio is all good. This session is going to be recorded, so if you do have to duck out or if you want to refer to it later or anything like that, it's going to be available up on my CI probably about midway through next week, so you can head back there and watch it again if you need to, or share it around to anybody else who you think would be interested in some of it. I'm going to be using ArchiCAD 24 today, but everything that we look at should also apply to ArchiCAD 23 as well. So if you see anything in here that you're interested in and you're using an older version, that should be fine. Everything else, most of the other things that we're going to look at will also apply in earlier versions than ArchiCAD 23, except for the things to do with the quantities tool, which we're briefly going to look at, because the quantities tool only exists in ArchiCAD 23 and 24 so far. So most of you should be covered for most of what we're going to look at today. So the main things that we're going to cover today is, I've had a couple of questions over the last couple of sessions of this webinar asking about getting quantities or just information out of the coverings tools, roof and wall coverings specifically. So we're going to look at that first up. I'll show you how you can access some of the things, mostly the areas, because that's the main thing most people are interested in, how we can schedule those so that we can see what's going on. And then I'll also show you quickly how to also schedule them using our quantities tool, which will give you a little bit more detail and let you break it down a bit further if you want to go to that stage as well. And then if we have time after going over that, I might quickly just look at the stair tool, because we've had some people asking recently about, is there a way to make a stair that's easier than the tool that's built into ArchiCAD? So I'm just going to quickly show you our stair tool and how that works. The idea for that tool is just that it's a nice and quick and easy way of drawing up stairs. So we'll have a look at that, and then if you have any questions during the session, I'll answer those at the end. So just enter those anytime, and I'll come back and look at those once we're finished if we have time. Otherwise, I'll get back to you after we run the session. So first thing we're going to look at is getting these quantities or these area calculations out of our coverings. So you can see in this project, this is just our sort of standard demo training project. I've got wall and roof coverings applied to the walls and roofs in this. And what we want to do is we want to get the area calculations out of these and into a schedule so that we can see what's going on in the project. So this might be something that you've tried to do before. I'm just going to open up a schedule so that we can make a new one. And the first thing generally when you are scheduling up something is you'll say what you want to schedule, and then you'll say the part of it that you want to schedule. That's a little bit different with coverings. So I'm just going to jump into how we can achieve the sort of thing that you probably want. So I'm just going to make a new element schedule. I'll call it wall covering. If I can spell covering, I will at least. Wall covering. I'm just going to make a blank schedule. So hopefully you're familiar with the scheduling tool in ArchiCAD, but if not, then essentially at the top here we set the filter, which will choose what elements to include in the schedule. And at the bottom we set the criteria to show. So at the top here you say, I want to show all chairs in the project, say, and then below you say, I want to see the color that they are and the height that they are, or whatever. So in this case, we're going to say that we want to get all element types that are the wall covering. That doesn't show in the base set of tools here. So we're just going to click more and scroll down here, and you should see it right down at the bottom. There's roof covering and slab coverings, and there's wall coverings. So we'll choose that, and it's going to schedule all of our wall coverings. And then the things that we want to show, let's show, usually we show the element ID, let's do that. And let's show the area. That's one of the standard values. So element ID and area. So I'll click OK on that. and that's going to make our new schedule. And you can see that by default, we've got a bunch of element IDs of nothing because my wall coverings don't have element IDs. And the area is just 1 for each of them, which is not probably super useful to you. The reason that this is happening is because ArchiCAD is asking the objects what their area is, and for each of these objects, the area is just essentially 1 unit of that object. That's what it's telling us, which is basically useless to us, which might be something that you've struck if you've tried doing this before. And so what we want to do is we need to, oh, it just told me that my audio has disappeared. Hello, is the audio still working? Sorry. Sound check. Sound has gone. Okay. All right, is the sound back again now? Excellent. Apologies for that. I'm not sure why it decided to turn that off, but we're back. So yes, so the reason that it's doing that is because it's just telling us that there is 1 unit of each of these coverings, not useful to us. So we're going to go in and we're going to grab the actual parameter that calculates the area of the covering, so that our covering objects do calculate the area of themselves. They're just not in that standard area calculation because there's a bit more to them than just a single area. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our scheme settings, and under add fields here, instead of clicking on it and getting our default set of things that we can pick up, we're going to click on the little arrow button here, and we're going to say library part parameters, because we want to get the parameters out of the actual wall covering library parts. So we'll choose that option. And then just to make it easier to find what we're looking for, I'll change this to folder view for used objects, just to make it easier to navigate, and then find our objects. So these are in Archia Library 24, Ci Tools Library 24, coverings inside the container, 4 coverings, and you can see there's 2 options here, roof or wall. So I'm going to choose, what did I say we'll do? Wall coverings here. And that'll list all of the parameters that are available in the wall coverings. So you can see them all here. A lot of this will probably not mean anything to you, and that's fine. A lot of them are just things to do with, say, the pen that's showing on the contours, for instance, and that sort of thing. That's not stuff that we're interested in. So I'm going to scroll down to the C area, and these are the actual calculated areas inside of this object in particular. So this will apply to all of your wall coverings using our coverings tool. So wall cladding area 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you can see here. Area 1 is the main cladding, area 2 is below sill height, above head height, below openings, and above openings for each of those. So there's 5 sort of zones for the cladding to be applied to, and there's a different area for each of them. That's why we can't just feed this all into the single area value that we saw before. So you can go through and schedule all of them. In this project, I think all of my coverings are only using main cladding anyway, so that's all I'm interested in for now, but you can schedule as much as you need to, obviously. So I'm going to add that in. And then also you can see there's another set of 5 things here, and that's the cladding presets. And essentially that's just the name of the preset that is used for each of these sort of cladding zones. So I'm going to add the preset name for cladding zone 1 as well. So cladding area 1 and cladding preset 1. So if I click OK now, I'll leave those 2 in just so that they're there, and I'll click OK, and that should update now. And if I resize that so it can show us the actual text, you can see main cladding is the area, and it's calculated the area for each of those individual cladding elements there. And the main cladding preset is showing us the name of the preset for each of those. So it's gone through and it's telling us what each cladding element is using as its main preset and what the area is of that. So if what you're looking for is a list of all of the cladding that you're using in your project and the areas of those, this is exactly what you want. And we can do the same thing with a roof as well. So if I go in and I make another new one of these, let's call it roof covering, spelled covering right that time. Excellent. And we can do roughly the same thing. So we'll set the criteria again, going into more, and just scroll down to the bottom. It's in this last sort of section here, which is where all the add-ons go, and it's in alphabetical order there. So we've got roof covering. So we're going to schedule all roof coverings. We'll go ahead and add in our element ID and area again, and see if it gives us anything sensible, and it doesn't. It's giving us a 1.43 instead of a 1 this time. It's just because the roofs are on at angles, so it's the value is different, but it's still a nonsensical number because it doesn't apply to anything that we're actually using. And we have 3 of them. So what we're going to do here is do something similar. It uses different parameters. So we're going to go in and say library part parameters again. We'll set it to by used objects only, just so it's easier to find. Go into the coverings container again, and we'll choose the roof covering. And again, we can see our list of available parameters. These ones all look roughly similar to the ones that you had before. But in the roof covering itself, there's quite a few extra bits in here which might be useful to you. You can see, I'm not going to schedule all of these because there's not really any reason to, but you can see it is calculating quite a few things that you might be interested in finding out the values of here. So we've got the apron depth and height, the apron thickness, the apron type. You can schedule all of that stuff, the barge color, the barge type, the depth and width of battens, all that sort of thing. You can schedule any of this stuff that you want to. And then we've also got calc apron length. So that's the previous one was the length setting for them. This is the calculated apron length. So this is what is actually showing in the model. And there's a whole variety of these that you can bring in here. The thing that we're interested in is the calculated roof area. So we can add that maybe with or without holes. Doesn't make any difference in this model because I'm not using any skylights anyway, but if you had some, that will give you different things there. And let's add in the roof length and width as well, and the feet area. I don't know if I have any, but so you can go through and grab any of these calc values here, and that will give you the stuff that you're looking for. And you can also add in the cladding type as well. So this one's just called cladding rather than cladding preset as it was before. So they're slightly different in the roof and the wall coverings, but you should be able to find the thing that you're looking for. You can also schedule in the angle if you've set the cladding to be on an angle as well, but that's not very useful in this case. So we'll hit OK, and you can see all of our new parameters there. And this is going to be a little bit hard to read, obviously. It's make that text a bit smaller. There we go. So you can see element ID and area still not very useful to us, but the rest of it is going to be more useful. So you can see the cladding type is listing the preset names again. So one of them is using a ribbed profile, and the other 2 are using corrugate. We've got feet area, the roof width along the purlins and on the rafters. See the length values there. These 2 are the symmetrical parts of the roof, so they have the same length and width and area, which is fine. And then we've got the area with and without holes, but as I mentioned, we don't have any skylights, so this will be the same value, but if you did have skylights, those would be removing that extra area from there. And so again, this will let you see essentially the same data that we were doing in the wall version. So it tells you what is applied to them and then the areas and various settings of them. So that should let you get out pretty much whatever info you want to do with your roof and wall claddings. The next thing I just want to quickly show you, I know that not everyone uses the quantities tool, but I just want to quickly show you how you can work with that. And that will let you go a little bit further into detail and let you control how you want the actual schedule to look a bit more. So the quantities tool, I'm just going to open up the palette here. I'm not sure if I've shown the quantities tool in one of these webinars before, so you may not be familiar with it already, but very roughly what it is, it lets you generate bills of quantities very quickly on the fly in your project. The idea of this tool is not to replace having a QS or anything like that. It's more to give you insights into what quantities or costing you can expect as the project is in the design phase, and to let you sort of get an idea of when you make a change, what effect that has in your costing and in your quants and that sort of thing. So it's meant to be used as you're working on designing the model, but it doesn't replace that sort of at the end part. It just reduces your surprises at the end. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to create a couple of quantity calculations to give us information about our, I'm just going to work with wall claddings for now, but it will work the same with roof claddings as well. And the way that the quantities tool does that is it uses things called recipes. So you can see here at the moment that if I deselect this, the recipes are empty. But if I select one of my wall claddings, it's showing, sorry, the actual wall cladding, it's showing that there is a recipe built into that called wall cladding, and that's going to generate me some information. So I'll just look at how we do that and what kind of data you can expect to see out of it. So I will just open up the quantity takeoff manager that shows us how this works. So at the moment, I've set up a couple of bill items, and bill items in quantities are essentially you saying these are the things that I'm interested in measuring. And so with these ones that I've set up in advance, we've got the total wall cladding area, we've got the roof cladding, which I'll ignore for now, but the total wall cladding area, and then we've got corrugate wall and weatherboard wall. So what I've set up here is just a recipe that shows the entire area, then a recipe that shows just the area of the corrugate and just the area of the weatherboards, which might be something that you want to do. So obviously in the schedule that's built into ArchiCAD, that's showing you all of the areas of all of the cladding elements. This is going to just show you the total of each of these types, which is probably something that you would want to do. So that's the showing us the bill items. At the moment, I've set the rate to nothing because I'm not interested in looking at the costing part of this. That will just be you can insert whatever your dollar value needs to be there. All I'm looking at is generating the actual units, which you can then, if you were doing it yourself, add a cost value to those to see what those will actually be estimated at. But for now, I'm going to ignore that and we'll just look at the actual values. So going into the recipes, I've got my roof cladding one turned off, but this is my wall cladding recipe. So this is what I'm interested in finding out about my wall claddings. So the way that this works is that inside this recipe, each bill element that I add in here is going to show in my quantity schedule. So at the moment, I've got those three wall cladding bill elements listed here. So total wall cladding area, corrugate, and weatherboard. And I've got this recipe set to apply when the element is a wall covering. So that's why you could see it sort of italicized here when I had a cladding selected. Essentially what this is saying is that this recipe will be applied to anything that is a wall covering. So that's setting the criteria, similar to how in the schedule tool before we set the criteria, and then below is the actual values that we're interested in. So total wall cladding area. At the moment, this is saying, this looks kind of scary, but don't be frightened of this. If you've used the expressions inside of ArchiCAD at all with your properties and that sort of thing, this will probably look familiar. Or if you've used formulas in Outlook or anything like that, it works very similarly. Essentially, what's happening here is that there's a when condition here, which is just a second level of criteria filtering. In this case, I want to show the total, so I'm not doing this second level of filtering, and I'm just saying to always show the cladding area 1, which, if you remember, is the name of the parameter that we added for the cladding area. This is just working with the main cladding areas at the moment, but we could stack up all 5 of those cladding areas to give a comprehensive set of all areas if you're actually using those. I'm just going to keep it with 1 for now just to simplify working with this, but if you do use more than one cladding type on your walls, then you'll want to add all of those in here. So what this will be doing is showing us the area, the total area of all of our claddings. So that is relatively straightforward for the coverings tool. We're just, for the quantities tool, sorry, we're just saying, show us all the wall coverings, cladding areas. Then under corrugate wall, we're showing the same value, so just the cladding area, but we've added this additional criteria here, which is that element.parameter. This is just quantities ease for choose the parameter of the element that we're looking at. And then cladding preset 1, as you might remember, that was the name of the cladding. And we're saying that if the cladding preset 1 is corrugate 1, which is the name of my wall cladding corrugate preset, then show the area of that. And then under weatherboard, we're doing exactly the same thing, but we're choosing weatherboards. And obviously you could go through and you could add boards and battens and bricks and all of the various different claddings, coverings that you might have in your project, and then calculate the areas of those. So if I click OK now and open up my schedule, my bill of quantities, and I'm going to say that I want to run this on the entire project and hit calculate, you can see it's calculated that my total wall cladding area is 213, which sounds right. The corrugate wall is 43 of that, and the weatherboard wall is 69 of that. I also have some boards and battens and various other coverings there, so that shouldn't be adding up to the total value. Those both sound right though, and so that is what it's done, just ignoring the rate section here. We're just looking at the areas. So it's calculated that the corrugate parts have the area of 43 and the weatherboard parts have the area of 69. So essentially using this, you can go through and set all of your parameters, all of your presets that you use for your coverings to have different bill items, which again, the bill item just means the thing that we want to measure. In here, set those all to have a criteria of looking at that particular preset, and then away you go. You can schedule up all of them, and it's going to run through and just give you the total value of all of those cladding bits that you have in your project. And you can also filter this down a little bit if you wanted as well. So I could select just this wall covering here and say current selection and calculate that again. And since this is a corrugate piece of wall cladding, the weatherboard wall part disappears because there's nothing happening there. And we just get our total wall area, which is 17.7, and then the corrugate wall area, which of course is 17.7 as well, because it's just what we have selected. But if we selected another element as well, that should, they're both corrugate as well. And we selected another one that wasn't corrugate, you'd see a difference there. So hopefully that makes sense. But yes, so that the things that you are interested in when you are working with this, just for reference, with the roof covering, you are interested in these parameters here. Largely, if you're looking at the area, you want the roof area ignoring holes and roof area with holes removed. And for wall coverings, the values you're looking for are main cladding and main cladding preset. And the actual parameter names of those are cladding area 1 and cladding preset 1, which is what we could see back when we went to choose them from the library part parameters. So you can schedule those up and you'll be able to see the values for those in all of the cladding pieces in your model. So hopefully that explains how to do that. I know it's a little bit complicated and kind of arcane seeming, grabbing the parameter values and everything, but once you've tried it once or twice, I think it will make sense, and you should be able to go through and add these to any of your projects that you want to see that in, and hopefully that will simplify getting your area values out at the very least. Now the next thing I just very quickly want to show you, if you do have any questions, enter those now, and I'll get to them after we've looked at this. But I just very, very quickly want to look at our stair tool. So as I mentioned before, one of the things that we hear mentioned quite a lot about the stair tool in ArchiCAD is that while it can do a lot, it's a very powerful tool, it can be a little bit complex to work with, especially if all you want is just to place a fairly simple stair and not sort of mess with it too much. And so we have our own stair tool. It's been around for quite a while. It works quite similarly to how the new ArchiCAD stair tool works, but it will let you draw up something, in my opinion at least, quite a lot quicker, and have to worry about less settings and fiddling and that sort of thing. So the way that you get to it is called the Polystair. So if you're using our work environment, it should already be here if you have the stair tool installed. If not, you can just add it by going to Options, Work Environment, Toolbox, and then finding Polystair in there. It should be around about, there it is, Polystair. So you can just add that to wherever you want it to. And then just select the tool from here and start drawing a stair. We have a couple of different stair types that you can draw with. So you need to choose that before you start drawing. The options are stair on stringers, solid stair, or floating stair. So you probably already, if you're at this point, know what kind of structure you want. So choose the type that you want. We'll ignore all of these settings for now, and we'll just start drawing the stair. So the way that it works is, the reason it's called a polystair is because it draws like a polyline would. So you just start by clicking, and you can see that a little palette pops up here with some settings on it, and it's drawing out a preview of what we're going to do. So at the moment, we are set to draw straight lines, and we are set to draw flights. So I'm going to draw along here. I'll say we'll go along 2 meters. Then I'm going to change to a landing. I'll say that the landing is going to be, let's say, 1500. Then we'll turn the corner. So I can do that just by moving my cursor now. And we'll say that that can be, say, about 300 out. And then we'll change back to a flight, and we will draw that out a further 1700. And then once we've entered all of the parts that we want, or legs as we call them in the tool, just click again on the endpoint, and that draws the stair that you've just made. So if I go and have a look at that in 3D, should see a fairly good looking stair that does the thing that we just told it to. So it's just a very nice and easy, quick to draw stair. Now that you've drawn it up, probably also want to put a railing on it. So you can do that just by having your stair selected and going to Ci Tools, Stairs, Place Railings. Come in here and choose what kind of railing you want. We've got panel railing, timber railing, horizontal railing, and just a handrail. I'm going to stick on some panel railing, I think, and I will set the panels to, let's make it glass blue. Obviously, you can change all of these other settings here as well. I'm just trying to sort of quickly breeze through it. So these are all just the default settings. Click OK, and now it wants me to know, you can see down at the bottom here, it says select the stair sides to place the railings on. So you can see this kind of darker black or thicker black line here is showing what we're doing. If you click the eye over here, it's going to add it just on the inside. If you click it over here, it's going to add it just on the outside. And if you go inside the stair, it's going to add it to both sides. So I will just add this one to the outside for now. So click there and it places. You can see that the railing is adopting the same break line as the stair itself is. So you can see it shown there and then tapers off. And if we go back to our 3D, oops, I better select it first. Go back to our 3D, we should see some railings on it there. There we go. So now that we've drawn up our stair the way that we want it to, we can also go in and do further edits with that just on the fly. That's nice and easy to do as well. So if you select your stair, at the moment the purple hotspots are showing to let us adjust the break line, which is the only thing that we can change in the mode that we're at now. And you can see when we do that, adjust the break lines for the stairs and the railings as well. But if I select the stair and go in and change my edit mode, this is something you might be familiar with if you've used some of our select objects, and the cabinet tool and that sort of thing is changing edit modes. This one here will let you add curved treads, which we don't want to do, but I'm going to choose this one here, which is the actual changing the way that the structure of the stair works. So I'll click OK, and you'll see a bunch of purple hotspots appear, and now we can manipulate the actual, that initial line that we drew to draw the stair in the first place. We can now modify that to change the structure of the stair. So grabbing hold of these hotspots, you can do various things. You can add a angle to each leg which is to say each sort of sub part of the stair, you can extend the brake line out. I don't want to do that. You can extend the leg length using this, and it will add in as many risers as you need it to. And you can go through and make changes to the various bits that you might want to do sort of after the fact. So if you do need to change the structure of the stair after you've drawn it in the first place, you can do that using these controls. And any changes that you make, there's my 3D view, that you make like that will also be automatically picked up by the railing as well, because it's just attached to the stair. So it'll adopt any of those changes that you make, and you can also make the changes while you're in 3D as well. So if you select the stair here, you can see the same, the same controls. That's the curve one. That's the leg width, which I adjusted just before. All of the same settings that you could see before. That one's a little bit tricky because it is on the short edge. There we go. So that's just the length of that landing there. So you can go through and make whatever changes you need to in 3D or in floor plan view, and the railings will stay up to date. And obviously you can also go through and change the way that the stair itself looks. So you could say that you want your riser types to be angled, and that you want the stringers to be cut, and then just hit OK, and it'll go through and make those changes as well for you. So it's just a nice and simple stair. Obviously, it's not as powerful as the one that's built into ArchiCAD. If you want to do a lot of complex bits, that's probably still your best option, but the idea here is just to make something nice and easy that you don't have to mess around with too much to make a fairly basic looking stair. All right, I'll just quickly have a look at some questions and see if we can answer some of them online. All right. Can I recommend a good HP laptop for modeling and rendering? I am actually currently using an HP laptop, and I would recommend the one that I have, which is this one is called a HP ZBook Studio. It's called. It's a kind of I guess a mobile workstation, they call them. It's got a Quadro graphics card, which is always good to have for ArchiCAD if you can do. It's got 32 gigs of memory, and it's got some sort of beefy i7 processor in it with a bunch of cores. It does very nicely. It does everything that I want it to do. I would definitely recommend those. The ZBook or the Z workstation line are the machines that Graphisoft use for their testing, I believe. And we have a lot of customers who use the HP Z series either as Z books for laptops or Z series workstations for desktop machines, and they just always work brilliantly. They have really good support. Definitely, I'd recommend them. Yep. Obviously, also we sell MSI branded hardware as well, which we also test fairly thoroughly in ArchiCAD. So those are a good option as well. If you talk to, I don't know anything about them myself, but if you talk to your account manager, they can probably give you details of those too. But yes, that would be if you can get my computer, I would say it's a good one. I like it. Yes. Can you use the railing tool on the Polystair? So yeah, as I showed, you can use the railing tool that's part of our stair tool. You can't use the railing tool, the one that's built in sort of to the other stair. They don't. It's not able to pick up the structure of our stair properly. So unfortunately, no, you won't be able to use it that way. You need to use our railing tool to do that. And our railing tool, you can also place it by itself as well. So you can just draw something. This is it here. It's unfortunately got exactly the same name as the other one, although the icon's slightly different. You can just draw those freehand as well if you wanted to, so you could put them around your slabs or whatever. But yeah, this railing tool here will not work with our stair tool at all, unfortunately. All right, well, thanks everyone for your time. If you do have any questions that you think of later, you can always send those through to nz.support@centralinnovation.com and we'll help you out. And The recording will be up about midway through next week. And there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Oh yes, if you have any other suggestions for things you'd like to see in future versions of this sort of here's stuff that you might not know webinar, please let me know about that as well. Like if you've got areas that you want covered or anything like that. The quantities from coverings thing I showed just before is something that came through based on that feedback as well. So it's very useful to know what you guys want to know about, and then I can cover those. But thanks very much for your time, and I hope to see you at the next one.